I recently had the pleasure to interview Joe and Rachel from 2KrazyKetos. And I'll tell you, I think they are just wonderful, wonderful people, and we hit it off really well. In fact, maybe too well, because our conversation wound up lasting about an hour and a half, which is just way too long for one of these podcasty things. So I broke the video into two, with part one airing right now.
Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto interview series where my guests today are Joe and Rachel from 2KrazyKetos. Welcome, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, we're so excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Well, I'm excited you're here too. The last time we talked, at least on video, was on Veterans Day when you guys were doing your marathon stream. So now roles are kind of reversed. It's going to be more of me asking questions, I think. Although I think with us, it's fairly conversational.
Yeah.
One thing, just full disclosure, I am drinking one of these, and we are not in any way promoting rain, but I thought, to keep up the energy level with Rachel, I probably should have an energy drink. but
Our oldest son recently got me hooked on Celsius, and it's the same thing.
Yes. I stocked up. There was a Prime Day deal on Celsius, so
I missed that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have about a pallet of that coming on Sunday. So, but also that also means if at any point I wind up ripping out an epic belch, we'll just have to edit that out of the video.
Sounds good.
That is totally okay. We do that all of the time because I'm always like, we do that sometimes where you're just like, okay, just need a swig of coffee or something, clear your throat. And then you're like, brr. And I'm like, you're going to have to edit that out. And like, he threatened so bad, like, I'm leaving it in. I'm like, no.
So I'm going to start with just sort of the stock sort of questions, the things that I'm curious about, and I think my viewers will be curious about. And then from there, we'll just sort of get conversational. And the first thing is, I do know we've got a lot of overlap in terms of viewers, and I got a lot of feedback.
You have a few more than we do.
Just a touch. Just this much.
When I mentioned in one of my podcasts that I was going to have you guys as the next interview, I got a lot of comments from people saying, "Oh, I love those guys. I can't wait to hear what you talk about." So you do have a pretty considerable fan base amongst my viewers as well. So, you're coming into a warm audience, but there's also a number that don't know about you yet, and this is their chance to get to know you. The first question is, for those who don't watch your channel, if they were to go over to your channel, what should they expect to see?
So our channel is a little bit of everything.
I'm going to interrupt you just because I just got an email, and that reminded me I got to mute myself here so I don't get any texts. All right. Sorry about that. All right, your channel.
So our channel has a little bit of everything with a focus on community. So when we started our channel, we talk about it all the time. We started our channel about 4 years ago, but it was kind of a joke between the two of us. We were like, what are we going to do that we're getting ready to be empty nesters? And so let's start a YouTube channel, because people would ask us, how did I lose weight? You would spend 30 minutes to an hour telling them, and then they would tell you that doesn't work.
Right.
So we decided, well, let's start a YouTube channel. When someone goes, hey, how do you do it? I can go watch that video. And then if you're still interested afterwards, then I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
And so what happened was we actually went to KetoCon like 3 years ago. And when we went, we noticed that a lot of people walked around like we did, which is, if you've ever been obese, you tend to look down on the ground when you're walking. You're afraid to make eye contact because you're kind of ashamed of the way you look. And we noticed a lot of people were like that. So we decided to really focus our channel on building a community, allowing people like Dr. Berry and Dr. Boz and Dr. Sideways and other experts in keto teach us how to do keto properly. And then we would kind of add some stuff in with our own personal experiences, but really hold your hand through it, because so many of us do keto on our own. We don't have friends or family or coworkers and maybe our doctors who aren't on board, which was what our talk was at KetoCon this past weekend. So we wanted to have a place where people can come and feel like, I do have somebody that will help me along my journey.
Yeah. And we really wanted to kind of be the guinea pigs for a lot of people who are maybe getting started, because again, you're hearing all of these experts talk about certain things, or like, this is how how you need to do this, but you kind of need somebody to live it out first, because you're asking a lot of people to go from a standard American diet. We had home ec and stuff where it was like, this is how much protein you're supposed to eat and no more. And, this is how much fat you're supposed to eat, supposed to keep it very, very minimal. And then you're asking people to turn that on its ear and do the exact opposite. And maybe you're worried that that's going to be dangerous. Like, what's the outcome of that going to be? And I feel like we have the opportunity to be the guinea pigs, show it demonstrated in our everyday lives so they can, make a choice for themselves based on not just like the education of an expert, but just we're the most average people on earth, just kind of living it out.
Yeah. So basically our channel, it's focused on subscribers in a community. We upload at least 5 videos every week, but it tends to be closer to 7.
We crazy.
2 live streams a week. We live stream every Monday on something we call Keto on the Couch, which is really celebrating subscribers, finding success stories from our community, non-scale victories. We read comments, answer questions. We live stream on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. And that's just kind of like, let's have a fun get together.
Eastern time, correct?
Everything is Eastern time. And then we upload at least 1 recipe video a week. We try to have 1 or 2 reviews. We do what I eat in a day. Like, here's our life on a vlog, because people ask us all the time, like, what do you eat? I don't understand what to eat. And we don't count macros. We really don't even monitor our glucose or our ketones. We sit down and we eat till we're stuffed. And we've been able to maintain our weight loss for 5 years now doing that.
So how much, if I may ask, weight did you guys lose?
So I've lost just over 100 pounds.
Wow.
I started out, it's probably more. The last known weight on the scale was about 285 pounds. However, that was 6 months after starting CrossFit. And also, when I had gotten on that scale, I went up like 3 sizes. But what happened was when I saw that 285, I never wanted to see the number 300. Like, if I don't see it, it doesn't exist. So I never saw 300, but I went up 3 sizes after weighing 285. So I'm pretty sure I was over 300. And I got down to as low as 180, which I found I was a little too thin there. And right now I hover right around 190 pounds.
Okay.
I had a similar experience to Joe. Like, based on the last time I was willing to get on the scale, I've lost about 115 pounds, but definitely my weight continued to increase. We had to keep, sizing up well after I quit weighing, but that's basically about how much I've lost since I've, tracked it.
No, I smiled as you told the story, Joe, because I experienced the exact same thing. Once I got, I think, to 230, 235, something like that, I quit weighing. I didn't want to know.
Right.
It made me sad.
Well, you don't know won't hurt you.
Yeah. So even though I say I lost 75 pounds, I'm guessing I lost more. So aside from the weight loss, what has been your favorite side effect of keto?
Oh, wow. There's a lot, because see, when I started keto to lose weight, which I think is why a lot of people come to keto. I didn't know about all of the health benefits of keto when I started it. I was in a weight loss bed at church. The CrossFit I was going to closed down because he was only charging everybody like $50.
Yeah.
Which you can't operate a CrossFit at that. But so I found keto just because I heard rumors of it. So I started it to lose weight. But what a lot of people don't know about me is I actually, when I was 20 years old, had a debilitating injury. I shattered my ankle. And I spent 2 years on crutches. And up until I found keto, I was taking Arthritek and painkillers. Arthritek is an anti-inflammatory for arthritis. I was taking that every day for like 20 somewhat years.
Wow.
And that year, right when I started keto, I'd actually told Rachel, I'm a high school lacrosse and football official. We were in the middle of lacrosse season. I said to her, this is going to be my last season. I can't walk anymore. I can't run anymore. It hurts. I have to crawl on the floor when I get home. The doctor said I needed an ankle replacement surgery, and that's a 1 to 2 year recovery period. So I didn't know what I was going to do. But then I started keto, not knowing that keto works on your arthritis and your inflammation. 6 months in the middle of high school football season, I came home from doing 5 football games, and I looked at Rachel and I said, boy, this is really interesting, but I have not taken a painkiller or an anti-inflammatory in 6 months. So I think for me, aside from the weight loss, the real, like, I will never go off of keto is the lack of pain from the arthritis. And our friend Steve from Keto Chow says all the time, pain is a powerful motivator, and it surely motivates me to stay keto.
Yeah. And for me, I had kind of a similar experience as Joe. I was just trying to keep weight off. I am super thankful that we have found keto because I don't live in like calorie deprivation. My whole goal before I dieted, like you were supposed to, like the no eat diet, like just I was trying to sustain life for 2 years on 500 calories a day, and
And gaining weight.
I managed to gain 70 pounds on that because apparently I'm like super extra and like so good at gaining weight. But I have experienced crippling anxiety, social anxiety, depression. I tried to take my life 2 times. And a side effect of keto was just what it has done for my mind, for the anxiety. I feel like, we're just getting back from KetoCon, and talking in front of like 1,000 people is just such a victory for me, because I spent decades not being able to speak to people face to face. Like that was just unbelievable. I can remember times sitting inside of my car thinking, I need to take this check and go deposit it into the bank. But like the thought of getting into the bank and being in a space with a bunch of people was just so overwhelming for me. So I'm so thankful at how keto has spoken into, mental capacity. Also, we got my mom involved in keto, and I'm so thankful to report that she was able to reverse type 2 diabetes after more than 20 years.
Wow. Awesome.
As someone who's in their 70s, she never thought that like you get better, you just kind of get worse. And from the time that we introduced her into keto, she's the only person I've ever forced into keto. I'm pretty like, if it's not for you.
We had some pretty tough conversations. Like,
Yeah.
You have no choice.
But after I lost my father to a widowmaker heart attack, I knew after they had been married for 50 years that, statistics show you lose one parent, you're going to lose the other. And I said, woman, I am not losing you. So we got her into keto. At the time, she had been diagnosed with blockages in her heart that were going to require stents. But it took a little time between her getting diagnosed and then actually getting into the hospital for the surgery. So she had some time to do keto, just a couple of months. And the day of the surgery, they wheeled her back to the operating room and then wheeled her right back in. And I'm like, what's up? And the doctor said the blockages are gone. Yeah. She doesn't need the surgery. So, for us, keto is like a life-saving, life-altering, adventure that kind of keeps you motivated.
Yeah, I feel like both of you are kind of telling a little chunk of my story here. I think for me, the same thing, a similar thing to Joe. My knees were just shot at age 30, or so I thought. I mean, if you ask a surgeon what you need to do, the answer is surgery. That's what they do. And I was told you're going to need 2 new knees, and try see if you can last a little bit longer before you get them replaced, because you're 30. You're going to need 2 more knee replacements throughout your life. And the day that I had sort of my keto epiphany was I was at Half Price Books, and I was by the cookbooks, and I was squatting down on my haunches, and I went, wait a second, I'm squatting down on my haunches, and this actually feels good. Like my knees bend, and that's the inflammation aspect of it all. For people who don't know what inflammation is, you tend not to know until it goes away.
That's right.
You think it's old age, and then it goes away, and you're like, holy cow, what I was eating was doing that to my body. I don't ever want to feel that way again. Let's play a little game here for a second. Let's just go back and forth naming, it doesn't have to be your favorite keto side effect. We've already talked about inflammation and arthritis, but let's see how many we can come up with.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe. I'll let you start. We'll just kind of go around the horn until we run out.
Oh, wow. There's so many of them. I'll probably just
You
lower
get
blood
one at a
pressure.
time.
Lower blood pressure. I was pre-stroke before keto.
Okay.
I'm
Rachel?
not farty anymore. Fartiness was like a huge thing. Like we bought Pepto-Bismol and Beano and like, you know, everything to try to reduce like gas. And I got to say that like I am much more popular in a room full of people. The fact that I do not have a bunch of gas anymore.
Yeah, that's a crazy one. Like a lot of people don't believe me when I say that, but you know, one of the only times I've farted in the last 3 years was when I just did that tortilla review, you know, and I was eating some stuff
Better
that
you
had,
than me.
you know, that was clearly not keto. I haven't been bit by a mosquito in 3 years.
Oh wow. No, I don't wear deodorant anymore. I would come home from games and Rachel would be like, get undressed in the house, walk through the house naked if you have to, but do not bring those clothes in the house because I'm going to burn them. And the only time I wear deodorant is if we're like in a close situation, like at a conference. And I think it's more of like a security blanket, but I certainly don't need it. Like I just don't have body odor anymore.
Yeah, I have one, like my left armpit kind of forgets that it's keto or something and like goes rogue on me sometimes. But for the most part, yeah, like that is very wonderful. Also, the no bugs in our house. We live in South Florida, palmetto bugs, roaches, like all of this gross stuff. Like, you know, also they like sugar. So the fact that we don't have that anymore, it's nice to be able to like go into my cabinets at night and like open it up and it's not like a bunch of roaches like scattering because, you know, we used to have things like that McCormick or like Taco Bell, like seasoning mixes. And you would see that they would like burrow into like those taco packets or anything, you know, with sugar in it. And it was interesting. Even our pest control guy, we, you know, had like our monthly, you know, or every 6 months come and, you know, spray the place. And he's like, I really don't need to respray. That's kind of weird. And in South Florida, that's unheard of.
So, all right, you guys stole a couple of mine. So what else do we got here? I mean, there's, oh yeah, you'd mentioned before about like a calorie restriction. The fact that I'm never hungry. Like even if I'm intermittent fasting, I don't get hungry. You know, there's never that where your body is giving you those signals down here, you know, the growling stomach and things like that. And then, you know, I eat till I'm satisfied and I'm done. There's no real sense of craving or feeling like I'm a slave to food.
Yeah.
I don't snore anymore.
Thank you,
No sleep
Lord. This is the best. Or, I mean, yeah, no,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love you too.
Yeah, the no snoring is really awesome. And for me too. It's not like I was not snoring also. How real are we going to get, Steve? If we're going to get like super real, I can just totally toss out no more like breakouts from herpes simplex, like not having cold sores. You can look at all of my like yearbooks through school. And not only was I an Uber nerd and a husky one at that, but I always would have like breakouts outside of my nostrils, on my upper lip, like terrible breakouts from cold sores. And it was always like super embarrassing. And I can't even tell you the last one I had.
It's funny. We didn't even notice that until like 2 years into keto, but people ask us like, how do you afford to eat meat? Because we eat like 95% meat. And people are like, well, how do you afford to eat meat at these current prices? How do you afford purchasing some type of a keto snack once in a while when it costs more money? And it's like, I don't spend $6 to $7 on a Starbucks drink anymore.
Yep.
We don't have to have a pest control guy, but we used to, no kidding, spend $100 a month on the cold sore medication for her face.
It was, because we bought really expensive stuff. And then
Breva or whatever it was called.
Really all of the over-the-counter medicines that we have used, I mean, they didn't cost nothing.
I don't get headaches. I haven't had a headache in 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me also just say that the herpes simplex, let's call that the bar. Like, let's not go past the bar.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
That's enough TMI.
Yeah, I used to take you know, aspirin, Advil, whatever daily, you know, for headaches. I haven't been, the only time I've been sick, and it was not much, in the last 3 years. I didn't get tested. I figured there's not a lot of point in getting tested for COVID because I'm going to be staying at home anyway, you
Right.
know. But lost my sense of smell, lost my sense of taste. But aside from that, it was pretty mild. So I'm a staunch believer that so much of this stuff in the standard American diet just weakens our system and makes us more susceptible to all of these other ailments.
Yeah.
I will say with regarding, let's put a disclaimer. None of us are doctors, nurses, or health professionals.
No.
But we did get COVID last year, and it was pretty bad. And we knew about 40 people. We kind of know where we got it, who all got it at the same time. Us and one other woman that we know who also happens to be keto. We weren't hospitalized. I mean, we lost our taste, and it was pretty bad. But I remember having a conversation with Dr. Barry. He's like, you realize you would have been in the hospital and possibly dead had it not been for keto. That,
Yeah.
like, you got through it because of keto. And other than losing taste, it was just we had no energy. But I mean,
Right.
and I really do thank keto and electrolytes for that.
Yeah, same here. And I'd echo what you're saying, Steve, which is like, other than that, I mean, that's a pretty high bar. Like that, that Voldemort disease is like pretty, like that's a lot, to fight. But other than that, I can't tell you the last time I, had like a cold, and we used to be sick on the regular. It was a seasonal thing. Like every season brought like some sort of infection where we had to get, antibiotics involved, and we haven't had to do that.
It's funny you mentioned that because just yesterday morning, as I was walking through sort of this wooded area on my early morning walk, and I'm just smelling all of the plant life and just taking it in, just like, wow, that smells, so good. And it occurred to me, I used to be taking Claritin twice a day, every day, all year round. And something like this would have just crippled me. I mean, my eyes would have puffed up and I would have been snotting and sneezing and all of that. So, yeah, it's the savings on medications are a great way to offset the cost of keto.
Yeah, put it right in your ribeye budget. That's what we do.
And I'll tell you, I think I'll end on this one for us.
Okay.
Is the amount of energy we have to actually enjoy life.
Yeah.
So we did prior to keto, like our time together was basically let's eat, get in bed, watch a movie. And that was about all the energy we had. We've joked about Sundays was our deal. Like we would wake up, we'd go to church, we'd go to Golden Corral, eat until we couldn't eat anything else, go home, watch a movie, fall asleep, and then go get some kind of takeout. And I figured it out one day. I think we were eating like 12 to 15,000 calories every Sunday. Then every day of the week, the rest of the week, we had to just not eat to make up for
Punish
Sunday.
yourself.
But we had so much energy from doing keto and things that we couldn't do before. We bought an RV, started camping, taught ourselves to paddleboard, go bicycling. We do sprint drills. I couldn't have done that prior to keto.
Who are those people? I don't recognize them.
That's awesome. And now I'm going to take a little drink, and this is where I'm going to insert a commercial break.
Okay, I
Yay.
can take a drink.
So, Rachel, you had mentioned before that you got your mom on keto. Any other family members on keto, like immediately
Yes.
or within your household, especially?
Well, in our household, we've got adult children. So we have a 21-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 25-year-old who has his own home now. The 21 and the 22-year-old, they're not keto, but they are ingredients and label readers. And I feel like that is really powerful. They are enjoying more single ingredient things. I think that is something very powerful that parents can kind of pass on, to their children, whether they're keto or not. Like if they're just asking questions of the labels and not just like consuming stuff and not knowing what they're putting in their body, I feel like that's a victory.
I have hope for them though, because they both acknowledge they should do keto.
Yeah.
That eating the standard American diet is not good, but both of them say, I just like my bread and sugar too much, but I have hope that at least they look at ingredients and that one day they'll transition more over to, at minimum, mostly whole foods.
I think they're like a lot of young people in the fact that it's like, I know I need to do that and eventually I will, but time is on my side. and so I can do that later. And I really hope that more people will get into this, even just low carb, even just like cutting out the sugar and so much processed foods. I'd like them to get into it earlier rather than later, only because I was in pain when I was in my 20s, and you don't have to be.
The reason I ask is I am very jealous of keto couples because you have with each other a support mechanism. I do not have that. In fact, I kind of have the opposite. I have a wife that's a junk food junkie, so there's never not the equivalent of like a truck stop worth of junk food. We went to the grocery store just before this, and my wife's got a Pepsi and a bag of Fritos to power her on the drive 15 minutes to the grocery store. And it just having that in the house all the time, and having a spouse that or partner that I'm not going to say she's not supportive of keto, but it's not something that she's interested in, and that's a struggle that I have. So I'm envious of you guys and other keto couples.
I will say, so when I got started, I actually did keto first.
Okay, I was
keto for about 6 months. Rachel came on board right away, but that was the opposite jealousy. It was, she was eating 500 calories a day of nothing more than oatmeal and yogurt, and she was like, we're going to get divorced if I have to sit here and watch you eat bacon and ribeye.
Yeah.
And so she tried it, but the problem was she had for 2 years been eating 500 calories a day. So of course, when you go from eating 500 calories a day to oatmeal and yogurt and immediately start eating a whole bunch of bacon, eggs, and steak, you don't necessarily see a reduction in the scale. She wasn't seeing a gain, but she wasn't seeing a reduction. So after about 3 weeks, she quit. She's like, this does not work.
Fear.
And it took 6 months for me to get her back on. But I will say, even though we are a couple, and that's why we have our channel. We have our channel to tell people, even if you don't have anybody in your immediate life that will support you, we will support you. If you come on our channel, if you are active in the comment section, or if you're showing up and chatting in our live streams, we know who everybody is. That's why we have a Facebook group and a new Mighty Network group, because Facebook puts too many ads in there. So we switched away from that. But having a spouse brings its own challenges.
Yeah, it does.
It definitely brings its own challenges, especially because she eats more than me.
Yeah, it's
a lot more.
It's not all rainbows and flowers over here. I mean, it can be very challenging because you're thinking to yourself like, well, we're on the same page, and so we're going to have the same results, if we double down. But like, yes, we're very different. For women, a lot of times it shows up in your pants before it shows up on the scale. Sometimes guys can really dump the poundage, like the weight, it shows up on the scale, and that could be very frustrating. You want to compare yourself and your results to that other person. I think that, I'm not checking in with the 2 kids that are not keto and being like, are you having good results? I saw you go and exercise. Are you having more results than me? Because you don't compare yourself as harshly, with someone who's maybe not keto. And then, yeah, we eat very differently. So I can eat the horse and rider. I can eat a large amount of food in a sitting, whereas Joe is always like a wimp, always needs the goodie, like the doggy bag to come home. So
what happens is we'll sit down and we'll eat. I won't finish it, and she will. And then an hour or 2 later, when I go to finish my dinner, she's like, wait a second, this isn't fair. Where's my food?
Are you getting another meal in here?
And then also, she likes to eat earlier than I do. She would rather eat breakfast and maybe a lunch and not eat dinner, whereas I don't want to eat till 4 or 5 o'clock. Also, Rachel she can eat the same thing every single day. A couple years ago, we did an egg fast where you could only eat eggs.
And I was like,
I was like, this is the worst thing in the world. I love eggs, but eating only eggs was just too much for me. I want variety. So it does present challenges because we're like, it has to be fair, but it can't be fair, right? Because we want to eat at different times, and I should technically eat more than her, because I'm
That
a
can't be
guy
right.
who weighs, 50 pounds more than
That
her.
can't be right though. Yeah.
So
There's just always challenges no matter what. I think that, whatever you don't have, like my hair is naturally curly, so I want to straighten it. And if it's straight, you want to have it curly. And I think that sometimes, if you have somebody that's like not your partner, they're not on board, you're like, gosh, I wish like that's the key to success. And then sometimes, you have a partner like, gosh, we still do things differently. So
Yeah.
So Rachel, you talked about coming from a calorie restriction place, eating oatmeal, eating yogurt, and I also think within our culture there's certain sort of we look at the different genders differently in terms of what you should eat and how much you should eat. So going from that calorie restriction, eating just yogurt and oatmeal, how difficult was it to make the mental switch to eating high fat?
it was very frightening. It was very, very frightening. Here I was, going out with the girls. Like if I would go out with a friend or something and their plate looks very different than mine, they're trying to have like the leanest thing on their plate. I'm
Mhm.
having like some fatty cut. It was very, very different. It felt very against the grain. I have done every single diet you can think of, like Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and Nutrisystem, and just trying to utilize lean cuisine and that sort of thing to, and it was all about like the smallest portion to like you're eating and not killing your family, but like keep it small. And so to go to high calories, I mean, that's the first thing you notice is like how high the calories are when you add fat to it. So it was really a scary venture. And I had to just be willing to kind of trust the process. I also had never known satiation. I always thought that you were supposed to just be a little pissed off every single day that you were not getting, to the full feeling, especially for somebody like me who can eat more than your average bear. I thought, well, that was part of life. I'm supposed to be a little bit angry every day. I'm supposed to be a little bit mad at myself every day for the way that I want to eat. So it felt very foreign.
And I will say that, like, when we work with clients that we coach, I think that's the most difficult thing for both men and women to grasp when they sit down and like, okay, let's look at your macros. And I've got them eating like 100 grams of protein and 130 grams, 150 grams of fat. And they're like, that's a lot. Like I was eating 1,000 calories and I wasn't losing weight. Shouldn't I be dropping it more? I'm like, no, that's why we're where we're at, because we're looking at calories instead of the fuel and what were we eating as far as a calorie. Like there's a huge difference between 100 calories of Oreo cookies and 100 calories of ribeye steak, like the way our body processes it. And I think that's the most fearful thing when people come in and be like, oh, wait, I can eat more so long as I eat the right food.
Right.
Yeah, I still find myself periodically as I'm cutting up a ribeye, like kind of pushing the fat off to the side, like slicing the fat off. And then I'm like, well, wait a second, what am I doing? That's
right.
You
it's just a habit.
And I would say we still suffer from that. There are times where we get on the scale and like, oh, I'm not super happy. Maybe I should just slash the amount of food that I eat by 50%. Instead of looking at, well, what else could be affecting us? Could it be the fact that Joe only sleeps about 4 hours a night? Or that I go to sleep with the television on and at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's still on when I kind of wake up? Could it be the amount of stress that I have? Or maybe I'm snacking while I'm sitting at the computer at midnight? But our first instinct is always, let's slash calories instead of looking on what else is impacting our weight.
Well, plus, we've had ingrained in us since birth, fat makes you fat.
That's right.
And it's still, and then of course, anytime we get around, the other 95% of the population that isn't keto, and, we mention what we're doing and people, oh my God, you're going to die of a heart attack tomorrow. It's even when from your own experience, I mean, you've been doing this 3-4 years, from your own experience that this is making you healthier. It's still when you're getting, hit on all sides with the fact that the fact that it's unhealthy, it does create this sort of cognitive dissonance, I think.
And it's funny. So, we're the same age or close to the same age, but we grew up in that time of fat makes you fat. Our parents didn't. And I think that's, when you grew up when everything went to low fat, eat SnackWells, things like that. So as I was putting together our talk for KetoCon, we were putting it up on our channel yesterday. I was looking for old photos to put up of not me, but my dad and my mom and stuff. And I was looking back, my father was 100% German. They ate all kinds of fatty food. I remember my grandmother cooking rabbit in lard and tallow. And I look at the pictures of my dad, and he was a twig all the way through college. It wasn't until this whole idea of fat makes you fat in the 70s and 80s where
margarine,
everybody started blowing up in size. And of course, if you look back historically, that's where the diabetes and everything went up.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's incredibly frustrating as a content creator, and I'm sure you experience it as well, because we live this stuff. We know it. We did it to our own bodies,
right?
And yet, we're waiting for science to catch up. So you've mentioned KetoCon a couple of times. I'm under the impression you go to a lot of keto conferences. Is that an accurate assessment?
We do go to a lot of keto conferences for a couple of reasons, but really a keto conference is where we started our channel. It happened to be KetoCon. So when we had our channel, we only had a couple hundred subscribers, and we made a comment one day on a video. I'm like, hey, I heard about this thing KetoCon, but we can't afford to go. I'd love to go. And one of our subscribers gifted us with tickets. And so we went with 200 subscribers, and that's where, up until that point, our channel was just a hobby. And it was a conference where we really made the decision that we need to change the world. We need to provide a community. We need to help people along on their journey, because we have so many friends and family members who are sick and ourselves, and we want to help educate them and hold people's hands. And so we go to a lot of conferences, and we encourage people to go to conferences, not even just for the speakers, because let's be honest, the speakers are awesome, but you can watch a lot of their talks on YouTube. Now, I think you have more of an investment when you put a little bit of money behind it. You'll pay attention more than, whereas if you're at home with a YouTube video, you can be folding laundry at the same time. But for us, a conference is really important, because that's where you can get community. That's where you can meet. We have subscribers who actually found out they have relatives through our channel.
Yeah.
Like, they did a DNA test and it turned out they had relatives. And so when you see, like, we have subscribers who share Airbnbs together to go on the keto cruise and stuff. And so that's why we go, is to really work on community.
Well, because for me, it was very hard to put myself out there. Again, I had lifelong, crippling social anxiety. And it was definitely exacerbated by being overweight for decades. It was hard for me to make friends in middle school. I was too big to share the bus, seat. So it was very hard for me to, put myself out there. We talk a lot about how I just kind of naturally began to look at my feet when I walked anywhere, because I just kind of assumed after, years and years, that when I look up, I'm just going to be met with rejection. I'm just going to be met with somebody that's like going to look at me with like, you are very much less than, Rachel. So I just stopped looking up. And so I think that when people kind of decide to put themselves out there, like, I'm going to go to one of these conferences, we encourage people, like, get out there. We want to meet you. You don't have to worry that you're going to get to the conference and not have anybody to sit next to. Like, you're guaranteed a seat next to me. And then when they put themselves out there, and then they start to engage, maybe they're like, okay, this isn't so scary. They're met with a friendly face. Lord knows, like, my intensity level is like so crazy. I probably like, people are just scared when they meet me, because I'm just so excited to see them. And I know how hard it is for them to put themselves out there and think like, man, am I going to make a friend? Is this going to be a positive social experience? Or am I just going to put myself out here and like find another venue of just rejection? So I'm so thankful to report, we've seen so many friendships develop during conferences. I mean, one day we're going to go to like a keto conference wedding, like somebody like met their sweetheart, by putting themselves out there and going, into a public setting. So we're excited for that. One day that's going to happen, but we're excited that, we get to see people, get to hug their neck, get to listen face to face about their story and their journey, and then sometimes even record it, so that more people can be, blessed by what is the specific, medical situation that they had that's been reversed by it.
Yeah, so we try to get to as many as possible. There's several coming up over the next couple months that we'll be going to.
So that's it for part 1. I will post part 2 probably this Thursday, July 21st. So if you enjoyed it, come on back. And if it's already July 21st or afterwards, I will have that video linked right over there on the end card. That's it. See you soon. Thanks for watching.